Chapter 1911. Juvenile Forest Lord. What do we call you? Ray asked as the newcomer's mana began to show signs of matching her own, even though she was as close to being a hatchling as Leo was. Mother named me Scotty. You can call me that. There was a speech. Yeah, I was supposed to give a speech when I got here, but I got distracted by the Dryad. Hi, my name is Scotty, the youngest daughter of the Forest Lord Skadira. Our species specializes in protective nature magic, and I can be a valuable addition to your group. She looked quite proud of having memorized that, and Ray laughed as Kara gave her a conspiratorial look from her beast's face. Don't trust those sisters, they're all chaotic sorts. Here, I have a welcoming gift for you. Thor insisted, then moved a collection of tasty plants from his space to hers. It took more effort than expected, as they were separated by a huge distance, more than he could traverse to return in physical form. But as soon as the plants were in her space, the white fawn glowed with power, and they began to multiply and grow, recreating a forest in her space. So, Hawk donated a bunch of trees for her, as did Ray. That should make the forest feel more like home, with a blend of cover and edible things. Passive skill activated. Forest Lord's Blessing increases healing taken and given by 200%, reduces damage taken by 20%. Allows instant teleportation when first attacked. Kara winked at her new sister. Lotus is going to be so mad that she didn't get a chance to steal you away from the Carl. She's our guild's top healer and a priestess of the Green Dragon. Scotty laughed. Green dragons are all crazy. There is a hatchling in the forest by Mother's Den that keeps chasing me and trying to sleep on me. Kara laughed at the thought. Of course, the green dragons would love a nice soft and warm fawn as a pillow. Of course, they might try to snack on her if she wasn't so soft, since green dragons were still carnivorous. But that was not the point. Tion understood what it was to be soft, white, and fluffy, and now he had a sister in the same situation, even if she was a lot taller than he was. Now that the curse was broken, the power level of the Forest Lord Fawn was growing steadily, and the space was eating up all the mana that Carl could channel into it. Fortunately, nobody else had noticed yet, as they were all so preoccupied with the fact that the Lady Silverwood really had gained a peerless grade skill from Carl, even though it took an astronomical amount of mana to activate properly. It said that it created an army, but at 5,000 mana per construct, it was more of a strike team for the average caster than an army. The only part of it that lived up to its name was the damage output. The Dryad Queen's healing was a great secondary effect, but the vines that they used as their primary attack could deal with nearly anything that the elves could think of. Remember, they only last an hour before you have to call them again, so ration your mana if you can't regenerate fast enough, Carl warned. I don't think that will be a problem. With two of these dryads as bodyguards in a dangerous situation, I will no longer fear any challenge that the city can throw at me. In fact, they could very nearly replace the primary damage dealers in a dungeon group. The mage who had come with Carl chuckled at the thought. They definitely could. At least if you called for 10 of them at a time as Carl did. Not only would they damage the Titans, they would restrain them so everyone else could simply go all out with their damage skills. The Lady Silverwood might have heard from her family member that the dungeon went in an unusual fashion this time. But chances are she couldn't really appreciate just how insane that last run was, without having seen footage of it herself. He certainly would think that it was exaggerated if he hadn't been there. Finally, the room seemed to realize that that young forest lord was missing, and the Lady Silverwood turned to Carl for answers. One of the talents of a beast master is a separate space optimized for growth. Similar to what I can do as a pet sitter, but with a permanent link to my chosen companion, and not just a living space. Miss Scotty is resting there for now, recovering from the negative debuff she was under. I would call it a curse, but there might be some other explanation for it. Either way, it will be cured soon, and she will be a wonderful addition to the team. Lady Silverwood looked shocked, then schooled her features to a professional smile, telling Carl everything he needed to know. She knew that the little one was either sickly or injured, and what had caused it. Yet, she had traded Scotty to Carl for the book to benefit herself and likely the Mother Forest Lord. Of course, it could be that the Lady Silverwood was also played by the Forest Lord, who lost nothing in this exchange. She got gratitude from the elves, a helpful spell for an ally, and healing for her child. While Carl was taking said child away, it wouldn't be much for a supreme-ranked beast to find a way to either communicate or visit in the future. Tell me, pet sitter, did you have a plan for returning home? Or are you on an extended tour of the immortal realms looking for something? Lady Silverwood asked after a moment's consideration. I've actually got to head home this evening. There are people awaiting my return and the introduction party for our newest family member. So I simply must depart. I do hope it's not viewed as improper to eat and run. The elves laughed. Once the dining experience was finished, it was finished. It was actually harder to get people to leave without begging for freebies or favors from the noble guests than it was impolite to leave too fast. Then please, do take care on your walk. A lovely young fox is often a target, no matter their personal strength. Chapter 1912. Scotty. As he finished his wine, Carl waved a hand and opened a portal to the Chaos Plane. Then, he rose, bowed to the Lady Silverwood, and gestured to the opening. This is my route home, just one extra stop to make the trip manageable. Moving between worlds that are so far apart really is an annoyance, even for an avatar of the world dragon. The ancient elf smiled. If everyone could move freely between solar systems, the immortal realm would be a much more dangerous place. At least when they have to move their realm with them, we have time to sight it and prepare. That is very true. It has been a pleasure meeting you. Please do assure the Forest Lord that I will take good care of Scotty. She will do her lineage proud very soon. I can already sense that when she recovers, she will already be close to peak immortal and just waiting on growth to reach supremacy. The elf was visibly startled, but she simply bowed in acceptance as Carl stepped through the portal. Once it closed behind him, she turned to the mage who had accompanied him. Well, that was unique. Something like meeting a traveling, crafting god in disguise. Did you see the accessories he was wearing? The mage nodded. Yes, Lady Silverwood. But there is something that you should know. The bracelet of giant slaying that he was wearing is not something he prepared in advance, knowing the dangers of our dungeon. He actually created it while he was in the dungeon and gave a matching one to his bonded blood destruction demonic spider. His combat skills are absolutely monstrous, with his epic and peerless summoning skills. But his crafting skills are absolutely terrifying. Anyone who can casually create peerless grade gear to suit an ongoing situation is not a man to take lightly. The old woman smiled. And through it all, you never bothered to tell him that you were the heir to the Ashen Grove Mage Tower? Do you think it would have impressed him? More likely, we would have begged him to stay as a guest lecturer had you not requested his presence. I don't know what sort of world he comes from, but we're not on the same level. I can smell the divine energy on him, and it smells like death. I believe that his guild master might actually be a demigod of the Black Dragon. The Lady Silverwood nodded in agreement. He uses fox charm to hide it, as most people will only notice the divinity and the fox aura. But there is definitely something off about his presence. It might be because of the bonded beasts that he has with him and their powers leaking out through his. But it might be more than that. Add his name and guild to the official visitor rolls so that if he comes back with allies, everyone at the dungeon knows not to cross them. They could become an incredibly valuable source of resources later. Understood, Lady Silverwood. Thank you for accommodating me here today. I know that it is somewhat unorthodox for someone from the Wilderness Mage Towers to be here in the Noble District. The old woman laughed and shrugged. The younger generations are getting much too snobbish for their own good. It's like they forgot that we're elves. We belong in the forest. There is no status gained by leaving them to surround yourself in borrowed magic and jewels. Real status comes with real power. Now, you might not have made out quite as well as I did, but I hear that your gains were not small. Tell me, what did Carl ask as his share of the rewards? Nothing but the crafting materials. We split an assortment of supreme-ranked epic grade items between the rest of the group. Overall, we came out far better than average, and I've gained a supreme rank staff that will serve me very well. However, you should be warned that if you send a team with him next time he is here, the rewards are not what you expect. The bonuses on the items that drop when he is in a dungeon are entirely different to anything we have seen before. Then, he took out the new staff he had obtained from the dungeon to show her what he meant. What sort of bonus is that? Triples all castings of Fireball? Does it just give you free castings of a specific skill? And extra lightning damage? That makes no sense as a combination.
Exactly.
While one might call it versatile, I suspect that the answer is that the items have been targeted and then randomized. Whatever resource allocation method his system uses seems to have overridden ours and targeted our members, then randomized the bonuses on the gear within the realm of what might benefit us. So, the items are not uniform, ordered, or perfect. They are unpredictable, but in a way that can situationally be incredibly powerful. On a related note, I also got a ring that reduces the casting cost of fire element spells by 20%. So it seems that Fireball may become my new signature spell. While the elves tried to comprehend the aftermath of having visited a dungeon with Carl, the man in question was already back in the tiny world, in cat demon form and a bright white suit, with a little help from Ray for the fashion and Kara to navigate the chaos plane. And now it was time for everyone to welcome Scotty to the team. Or save her from Lotus, whichever came first. Though, the problem was not entirely Lotus. She also had Tifa and Tenna, who were happy to help her capture and cuddle the new addition to the group. And the dragons could fly, so even though the fawn was faster than the spirit bear, she couldn't easily escape them. Green dragons and their urge to cuddle really were her nemesis in this life. Carl plucked the transformed beast master off the fawn and placed the small green dragon beside Ophelia, who bonked her on the head to get her to change back to humanoid, now that she didn't have to fly to chase the forest lord around the tiny world. Lotus, calm down. There will be plenty of time to get to know each other later. Everyone, welcome Scotty, our newest addition to the Darklight host. Scotty, why don't you tell everyone a bit about yourself? Is it time for introductions? My internal clock says that it is 3 minutes past 6, and we should be eating. Carl laughed and gestured to the grills by the beach behind him. There is a time difference between your home and here. Food will be ready soon, as it's a welcoming party, but normally, we would only be an hour past lunch here. Scotty frowned. She didn't like changes to the routine, but she would adapt. Already she could feel her body changing and growing more powerful, so perhaps adaptation of all sorts was necessary here? Chapter 1913. Meal Schedule. Just as Scotty was getting upset about the uncertainty of her mealtime routine, she noticed a sign set by the grill. Breakfast, 2 hours after dawn. A lunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dinner, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So, this world did have a proper meal rotation, and she knew when it started so that she could get there first and not have to fight with her siblings to be sure that she could eat. She never won those battles anyhow. She didn't even have antlers yet. Of course, there was very little fighting over food here in the tiny world, who believed in a philosophy of having an abundance of food for everyone and not raising the strongest of the white stags to become forest lords. In the Fey realms, the offspring who failed to become the next forest lord would slowly begin to lose their powers, their fur would darken, and they would join the great hunt. That was that way of their species, and she was destined to be little more than practice for the gods at the rate she was growing. But now, she was in a world with no other forest lord, and her powers were stronger than ever. All of it was good news for Scotty, even if she despised having to change her routine. She had already memorized the meal schedule, the location of this cooking station, what vegetarian foods they had, and who was doing the cooking. Now that she knew that, she was quite confident that she would be the first one in line for food next time. But she had underestimated this place. I thought that there were more people in this space. Where did they all go? She asked the small tortellin standing next to her. Oh, they have tasks all over the space, so they're eating at one of the 5 other kitchen locations. They're all on the same schedule with the same daily menus, so you can go to whatever one you would like. If you make friends with the cooks, you can ask them to make you something special if they have the ingredients, and the chefs are always looking to try something new, so there are opportunities to test experimental foods that will help your growth. Leo explained. The look on Scotty's face at the words experimental foods was enough to make him laugh. I take it that you're not big on trust? Scotty shook her head. Who experiments with food? Food is food, make it right, and do it the same every time. Isn't that how food is supposed to work? I see the confusion. How do we know that we have the very best food if we don't try new ones? We don't do it during meals. Those are only the best versions that we've found. But in between, the chefs will try new things to become better chefs. Scotty's ears perked up. Oh, so this is a training place? For younger creatures to learn how to do the things that they were born to do? Leo nodded happily. I'm under a year old. I was born in one of Carl's spaces. The others are all still young too, and most of them were born in mortal worlds, where nobody lives forever, so everyone is always trying to learn new things before they're forgotten. It's very different than what you were used to, but I can see that you're used to organization. My teacher at the school likes to make schedules for all of us. I can do that for you too if you would like. Scotty was literally glowing with pleasure, a faint white light. Oh, that would be wonderful. The Forest Lord is an avatar of order. You know, their job is to keep instability from destroying the forest or mutating the residents. That's what we grow up into if we're strong. Leo turned to Kara, who stuck her tongue out at him, and then laughed. You're in for an interesting learning experience. If you haven't already guessed, your sisters tend to be a bit chaotic. Your brothers are a bit less so, but we're likely not as ordered as you are. Now, for the important part. What flavors do you like? Sweet, spicy, fishy, meaty, crunchy. Scotty thought that the little turtle was a bit odd. How could crunchy be a flavor? Leafy, crunchy, and sweet foods are best? Leo nodded. All right, then I know just what you should start with. There are 2 types of salads that go with this meal. One is potato salad, and it's soft and spicy. The other is leafy greens with fruits and nuts in it. It's sweet, leafy, and crunchy. Everything that you wanted. But first, we've got snacks. They're not actually part of the meal. They're to welcome you here, and they all have magical effects that will make you stronger for a little while. That sounds superb. Those fluffy squares smell spectacular. But you seem very confident for a small tortolan. Leo winked at her. I'm actually a false island giant turtle. I use a transformation spell that makes me look like a tortolan about my age. It's more convenient because my natural form is very large and would need to eat too much if I stayed in it. Thor is the same way. He is a behemoth, twice the size of an adult dragon. But in human form, it's much easier for him to interact with people. And Thor loves interacting with people. Those 4 little behemoths and the red dragon hatchling are all his children. Their mother is the red dragon priestess. For a second, Scotty tried to work out the mechanics of that, and then decided it must have happened with them both in human form. Any other combination simply didn't work. Thor sensed that his new sister was thinking odd things, and double-checked to make sure that it wasn't Kara trolling the newcomer. But he saw that Scotty was watching his kids. Oh, Scotty, we haven't introduced you. These are my sons, William, Robert, Ollie, and Dale. Then my daughter, Seraphina. Hello, everyone. The boys ran over to rub up against the new sister, marking her as one of their own. That was new to Scotty. All her siblings were competitors, as only one of them could become the next Forest Lord. It was nice. Chapter 1914. Forest Lords. An elven druid came over with a tray of cake squares and offered them to the kids. Did you want something specific? I know that Scotty just joined us, so she isn't familiar with our favorites. Why don't you all explain them to her? All 4 behemoth boys began speaking at once. The best one is the double chocolate chip one. The best one is the vanilla bean and lemon one. The best one is the carrot one with the cream cheese topping. They're all wrong. The best one is the red bean and sesame. Scotty laughed. I see that there are many different options. Perhaps I will have to try them all so I know what ones I like best. The elf nodded and separated one of each flavor onto a plate for her. The behemoths eyed it enviously, then absolutely demolished the rest of the platter the moment that the elf set it down for them. Seraphina rolled her eyes. The boys are true gluttons. That's how they got so large already. We're the same age, and they're already so much larger than I am. But they don't appreciate roasted meat the way that a dragon does. Scotty nodded. The owls love meat too. But I can't eat that. Serafina laughed. Oh, my brothers can eat meat. They just like vegetables and sweets better. There really isn't anything that a behemoth won't eat if they have the chance. But they only go for meat if there are no other options. Scotty tried the treats one after another and found that there were no bad options. Each of them was an excellent snack, better than any of the foods that her mother had prepared for the kids. She was always so stingy with the treats, saying that they needed to be more responsible to the forest, as if mixing the ingredients to make them taste better somehow took more food. The people of this place seemed to take great joy in their food, and Scotty saw that it was also a chance to socialize and discuss training methods, as well as tips for better completing their tasks. They took care of this place, much the way that the Forest Lord took care of their forest. So, they actually had a lot in common. Then, a set of fluttering wings caught her attention, and Opal landed atop Leo's head to greet their new sister. Good afternoon. My name is Opal Carlsdaughter, the youngest of your big sisters. It's good to see another Fae-type sister in the team. We've got all sorts, you see. But now there are 2 Fae on the team, so we're in the lead. Scotty giggled. We're very different types of Fae. But don't the elves count as part of the team? Opal shook her head. They live here, but I'm talking about the beasts bonded to Carl. We've got Hawk, the dark fire phoenix, flying over there. Then Thor, whose kids you've met. Then Sister Ray, in the black robes. She's a blood destruction, demonic spider. Sister Kara, the chaos badger, you already know. Leo is a false island giant turtle, if he didn't tell you already. Tion is the super fluffy stone fur divine fox. And somewhere around here, we should have Remy. She's a Naga matriarch. Oh, there she is. Sometimes she gets all distracted working on alchemy projects and forgets to come out to greet people. Remy slid over to them and wrapped their new sister in a 4-armed hug. Welcome, sister. I can tell already that we're going to be good friends. Scotty had no idea how the Naga could know that. But Remy could sense the love of plants, the magic in the young forest lord that could grow them more effectively than anything that their druids could do, and her innate need for order. Order was helpful. Order didn't forget what ingredients she needed, the order that they went in, or the exact quality that was necessary for the alchemical recipe to have the desired effect. An order-related sister was a great addition to the group. For her part, Scotty had no idea what alchemy was. It wasn't something that anyone in her family did. They had healing magic and plant growth magic, so they were never really short on anything that they needed in the Fae Forest. All the creatures revered the Forest Lord for the power that it had, and their innate skills were incredibly powerful. You have powerful forest skills? What can you do? Remy asked, hoping that the new sister would be an asset to the elves working her reagent fields. Well, I have epic plant control, which is great for growing things, and greater regrowth, the area healing spell, and forest protection, the defensive barrier. Plus the Forest Lord's blessing, passive skill, which increases healing and reduces damage taken. That one I didn't have before. It only activated after I was bonded with Carl, and Sister Kara cast a bunch of spells on me. Remy took a second to understand what she meant. Oh. Sister Kara nullified the debuff that were on you from being weaker than your siblings. I read about it in a book. Only one white stag becomes the Forest Lord, the rest become regular divine stags. Though, that's kind of a bad name, isn't it? Since you're a doe, not a stag? Scotty laughed. I asked my mom the same thing, and she told me to shut up and stop overthinking things. That's just what we're called. Remy shrugged. Well, we can make up a new name for you if you want. Or we can just call you a Forest Lord, since you're the Forest Lord of this place now. There isn't anyone here that will compete with you for the spot, so it's yours by default, right? Scotty shook her head. We still have to be strong enough. But I think that I will be very soon. As soon as you reach Supreme, you can take over the position, though usually you still have your parents watching over you, unless something bad happened. Chapter 1915. Remy schemes. The mention of getting stronger had Remy curling protectively around their new sister. You know, I have potions and pills and all sorts of wonderful things that help people get stronger. Sister Kara helped you get rid of the effects of being weaker than your siblings, but I can do more than that. If you'd like, I can even help you grow faster than they did. faster than any other forest lord would, without outside assistance.
Ah,
Scotty nodded happily. The strong ones get all the good stuff from Dad. They're close together, while I'm far behind, so they both get the same good stuff to see which of them can come out on top. I bet if I got them now that we don't have to compete, I could be strong too.
Ah.
Ray laughed as she came over to pat Remy on the head. Our scaly sister means well, but she is known to recruit people to work as experimental testers on her new alchemy recipes. She's quite good at it, so it rarely goes wrong, but don't let her trick you into testing new products just because you feel like you're behind. Just having that space will let you grow faster than any other forest lord. So, don't feel pressure to keep up. You'll get there, and you're already strong. Hawk is an ascended immortal. I am one as well. But the rest are still void immortals, so you're not even behind the average in this group because your parents were so powerful. The little fawn danced happily in one spot. Oh, that is wonderful. I'm not losing. I won't be cursed again. Ray patted her head, beginning to appreciate that giving head pats was actually better than getting them. She could appreciate how this was fun. Her new sister was so soft. Carl chuckled at Ray's train of thought. She was definitely thinking of ways that she could equip Scotty to carry the fawn with her when she went into battle so that she had a small soft thing that could heal with her. Like the old days when she carried Lotus. You know, Lotus is an immortal now. As soon as she forms her immortal spirit, you can start taking her places with you. Ray smiled back at Carl. She had definitely considered that, and she was waiting for it to be true so that she could bring back some of the classic tactics. Especially now that Carl could make more spiders. If you needed to get around in a dungeon, there were few things better than spiders. Especially for the underground ones, like the mining dungeon. In there, she could have them attack from every surface, as they had no problems climbing on the ceilings. They needed to go back to that dungeon soon. Not because they were short on materials yet, but because she had new ideas on how to find and clear the bosses before the miners could do so much work. The faster that she could kill the bosses, the more time that she had to taunt and terrorize the miners while they worked. If she did it right, she was pretty sure that she could have at least 2 hours before the whole place was cleared out. Though, if it wasn't so far, it would be fun to back to the Titan dungeon again, too. They didn't spend nearly enough time killing things. Not like the early days during the Giant War. She had heard so much about the dangers of the immortal realms, but mostly it was just random stupidity on a global scale, not an all-out battle royal, as she had been hoping for. Scotty thought that her new sister was a bit too energetic about finding things to kill. It might be part of being a spider, but Ray was definitely very interested in constantly finding things to kill, even though she wasn't hungry. The Forest Lord as a species weren't meat-eaters. But they did understand the balance of the forest, and that other creatures were. There were definitely other considerations that came first, like the food that they were bringing out for everyone, and all the new scents that Scotty could detect coming from the kitchen area. She wasn't entirely familiar with the cooking techniques that other species used, but whatever it was, it smelled amazing. It wasn't even just one dish. There were dozens of things other than the sweets for her to try, and more food just kept coming. Is this what a party is? Everyone plays games and eats until they pass out? Scotty asked Lotus, as the petite beast master brought over a bowl of water for her. Yep, that's the usual thing. If you want to have the Carl teach you how to transform, you can go play in the water too. He can grant you a beast form, transformation spell, so that you can be in humanoid form. That sounded interesting. Walking on 2 legs like everyone else? That seems interesting. Well, everyone other than Remy. Does Remy not know the spell? Or does she just like her tail? Lotus considered that question seriously. I think that she likes her tail. She can definitely use the spell if she wants to, but since her natural form has arms, she can do most of the things that she wants to. If she was still a spirit snake, I believe that she would use it more often. But as a Naga matriarch, there is no need for her to do it. Scotty thought that she understood. A Naga could do all the human or elf things without walking. She didn't speak their language, but the system here let everyone understand each other. They could even understand her, though she was speaking Forest Lord. Even most of the elves at home didn't understand her. Scotty was quite content with her choice to follow the Carl. Her mother hadn't led her in the wrong direction, and she was becoming just as awesome as her older brothers. What more could she ask for? Except maybe to join the kids who were diving into the lake? Perhaps not from 50 meters in the air with their wings tucked like that crazy black hatchling. But splashing in the water looked way more fun when you were less awkward. Her fawn form didn't swim nearly as well as those others did. Chapter 1916. Legs are convenient. Scotty finished the plethora of food in front of her, then settled into the grass as her knees buckled. Swimming could wait. She was on the edge of a food coma. Remy laughed as she saw her new sister curl up in the grass. That happens to me too. Too much food all at once, and all you want to do is nap and watch the world flow by. The food here is so good though. If you keep eating it every day, you will gain all sorts of benefits as they use the best magical plants we can find for every meal. We also grow lots of them. If you want to take a walk, we can go see the gardens. First, I would like to see what I look like with human legs. Remy waved to Carl, who was currently tossing the behemoths into the lake, so they could briefly experience the joys of flying. He already knew what they wanted, but it was best to pay extra attention to their new member so that she didn't feel like she was a nuisance or an afterthought. She had been treated like that all along at home because she was the weakest of the siblings. Miss Scotty, I hear that you like to try being humanoid? The spell is called Beast Form, but when you're already a magical or divine beast, it gives you a beastkin-type humanoid form. Most of them are close to their own species, though Thor's form looks more like a green-haired elf than a beastkin. Scotty nodded. I think I understand how it works. Perfect. Then I will give you the skill and a few outfits so that you can match the others. There is a special outfit for swimming, one that doesn't hinder your movement, and that dries quickly when you get out of the water. That's this one. Then, there are a few dresses for you, in white to match your fur. These are all made by Sister Ray, but we can get you some different ones if you don't like wearing silk. Scotty shook her head. Silk is fine. Nobody gets hurt to make silk. Ray approved of that line of logic. Not only was it her own silk, nobody should be able to object to it, since it was just her valuable time that was going into the production. It wasn't like she had sacrificed their families or neighbors for it. Not like that time that she had accidentally offered a set of Minotaur leather armor to a Minotaur. That was embarrassing, even if the stats were perfect. Somehow, Kara was the only one that had found that particular mishap funny. Carl patted Scotty on the head and transferred the knowledge of beast form, merely reminding the fawn of how to use it, as she already had access and didn't need, follow me, little one to teach her the skill. Magic flowed over Scotty like water, and a half-second later she was standing on two legs in the white dress that Ray had made for her. She appeared as a girl of about 8, a few years younger than Kara appeared, with waist-length pure white hair that was almost silver and shimmered in the afternoon light. Small pointed oval deer ears framed short antlers on her head, though her fawn form didn't yet have them, and her eyes were a shocking green. A high-pitched squeal informed them that Lotus was on her way over, and Remy laughed as the priestess flew through the air where the forest lord had been standing, only to land on the grass as Scotty teleported 2 meters to the right at the last second, without even looking in her direction. Oh, that skill is going to drive her nuts. I like it. Sorry, it's instinct. I sense something coming my way, and the forest lord's blessing allows instant teleportation to get away. Scotty looked startled at her own voice, which was surprisingly soft and shy, though she hadn't intended for it to be. My voice is a bit odd. Lotus picked herself up out of the grass. I think it's perfect. You're still young, so you should sound as cute as you look. Now, did you want to go swimming? Did Ray give you a swimsuit? Scotty held up the swimsuit. Not yet, I'm still super full, and I need a nap. I know the perfect spot. There are hammocks in the trees for just this purpose, post-snack naps. If you want, I can even have someone warm and fluffy come keep you company. Sister Kara? Lotus was briefly confused. Why would her thoughts go straight to Kara when there were so many other options available? But Kara was the sibling that Scotty was the most familiar with, and she was furry. So, that was enough to count. Tion came over and flicked his tail in Scotty's face, making her laugh. Right, I have a fluffy brother too. Yes, a nap sounds very good. I bet that big brother Tion is very warm. Tion transformed back into his natural fox form and teleported the two of them to a hammock and then shifted their positions, so he was comfortably draped across the young forest lord. "Ah, this is the life. Wake us up for dinner, will you?" Scotty giggled as she wrapped her arms around the fox. This place might not be all that bad. The people sure were friendly, and they were already teaching her many wonderful things. But her brain was fuzzy with so much food. Carl watched as the pair drifted off to sleep, and then waved Dana over. "I have something amazing to show you." Dana rolled her eyes. "Something that you used to cause trouble all through a city full of elves?" "I claim no responsibility for that." Who knew that they had such low resistance? They're elves, they should be fairly nearly immune to basic natural effects. But this is it, what do you think? Carl changed back into fox form and changed into the rakish playboy fashion that the elves used for rogues. "Oh, I like this." Yes, I can see how they were weak to that appearance, even without fox charm. Carl kissed her neck, then wrapped her up in his tails. The kids were sleeping, they had a bit of time before dinner. Time to teleport somewhere private. Chapter 1917. Morning Callers. They might have managed to get one night to sneak away, but they certainly didn't get to sleep in. First thing in the morning, Maish was at their door with a message from Ray. "Mr. Carl? There is a group at the guild house to speak with you. I believe that they are from the mining dungeon. Yizzaman." Carl sighed and nibbled at Dana's fluffy fox ear before getting out of bed. "Please inform them that we will be 10 minutes. Just finishing our morning routine." They were both going to be requested for the team, Carl was certain. So, even Dana had to get up early and shower this time, while Carl transformed back to what passed for his human form to go greet the guests and discuss the dungeon run for the day. She needed a bit longer than he did to get ready, especially when he left fox form to shower. Without the fluffy ears and tail, there was a lot less maintenance to be done. Having 9 fluffy tails did have advantages, though. He was definitely looking forward to being able to find time for that form in the future. "Greetings, elders. Were you wishing to head to the dungeon this morning?" Carl greeted the older immortals when he reached the main room of the guild house. "Right on the first guess. We were hoping to do it early today so that it could be finished and mined out at a reasonable hour. With the assistance of yourself and your Dana mage, I believe that we should be able to get it all finished and empty by dinner. However, we would like to switch strategies this time and have your team take the right side while we go left. The resources are different on each side, as you noticed last run, and being able to alternate weekly will provide us with a much-needed balance for our customers." "Indeed. If we can swap every week, I don't see any reason that my craftsmen would be upset. There is enough for us to work with for 2 weeks, so we will be building our own supply until we have a need to rush production." Working with Carl was much easier than they had anticipated. Given how greedy and proud most powerful immortals were, they had expected him to demand the sections with the best loot, even if he didn't try to renegotiate his agreement with them. But that wasn't Carl's style. Even if they alternated, he would still get most of the good stuff because his teams were so much faster than theirs were. The only question was who all he should bring with him. Scotty was still sleeping and getting used to her space, so it would be best to let her rest for the day. Ray definitely wanted to go if she sent her own shopkeeper to get him this morning. But there were very few situations where Ray would not want to go to a dungeon. "How many people do you have today?" Carl asked, so he knew how much space he had. This wasn't a good dungeon for training in, as it was only boss kills. So, he would have to find a better spot to get the whole team together again. But he might need to bring some elders. "If you and Dana are both there, could you do the dungeon together with your beasts?" The elder asked hopefully. "I could. There are a few other members of my guild who would be helpful, though. Some people to back up Dana's side and protect your miners from being ambushed." The elder smiled. "We have managed to gather our combat elders this time, so we won't need as much protection, as long as some of your team comes to help with the boss if it finds us. In that case, it's perfect. We will split into 3 groups once we enter the dungeon, 1 for each boss. Your team mines as fast as they can, just send a couple of people to assist Dana. And then we will mine the place out at the end. If you need guidance on the hidden resource locations, we can help you with that as well. No need to waste time getting to the good stuff." The elder laughed. We have sent teams down since the last run we did together, and they have confirmed the route you described. We have a full plan for where we need to mine first this time, starting near the left tunnel. Never walk past work. That's what our Grand Elder says. Words of wisdom. If you do, you've got to double back, and there is a chance it will be destroyed before you get back. My team isn't known for being the most gentle, though we do try not to destroy the dungeon itself. In her space, Ray laughed. She was preparing all the good stuff for this dungeon, hoping that Carl would give her a full team of spiders again. If he did, she needed to be ready for group combat, and that meant items that granted bonuses to those near her. Like better venom. The spiders were great additions, but their species was a bit limited, and without the bond to Carl or extra skills, they weren't living up to their potential. If she used an item that gave them all poison damage and a bonus bleed effect, they would double in output instantly. While Ray prepared, Tion was making notes for his little sister. She had never seen a dungeon before, as far as he knew. So, it would be so much better if they had a chance to brief her in advance. Of course, she was sleeping off a food coma and the influx of mana that came from being in a beast space. But she would definitely want a full description of the situation once she was awake. I will go with you as well. To protect our Dana mage. Thor insisted. We're getting the whole gang back together. Ooh, we should take the others out soon. I've got an item that will help them stabilize their immortal spirit faster. It will be a weak one, but a complete and stable one. Remy added. Tion giggled at her enthusiasm. You're coming too? That's surprising. You make me sound lazy. I contribute, and not just in the alchemy lab. Chapter 1918. Team Effort. In the end, everyone was planning to go. Even Leo wanted to fight, though he would have to do it in a very diminished version of turtle form, as his Tortolin form really wasn't suited to combat. It would be adorable, but not really combat effective. Once the beasts were all in their spaces, ready for the trip, Dana came to join them. Sorry for the delay, everyone. It takes some time to get prepared in the morning. The elders shrugged. We wouldn't expect any less. That's part of why we arrived so early. With many of our own elders, if you don't give them 3 hours warning, it is challenging to get them moving. By that standard, Dana was practically running out to meet them. All right, if you're ready, our team is waiting by the dungeon. Can you open the portal directly, or do we need to take an extra stop in the middle? Carl shook his head. I know where we're going now. I'll take us straight there. Opening the portal to the dungeon was surprisingly easy today, he noticed. His power level was definitely increasing, but it was not easy for him to quantify, as he still felt the same as he did any other day. Of course, with a new beast, his power was bound to get a sudden boost. But he also had Hawk and Ray at Ascended Immortal now, and that would pull him upward. Your power is growing very well, branch leader. The elder commented in a startled tone as the portal to the mine dungeon opened. Indeed, I had an unexpected opportunity after relocating the pocket dimension that had collided with a guild village not long ago, and it has been pulling me upward. It had been pulling everyone else upward as well. Scotty was a forest lord, a species that was innately designed to protect and cultivate a magical forest and everything in it. Her mere presence was helping pull the others up in power, so they could reach their own potential faster. That was part of her blessing. And that would only grow as she spent more time in the tiny world and began upgrading the plants that they had. Her nature magic was different from Leo's in that it was almost entirely focused on growth and life, while Leo's was better for evolution and longevity. But Carl was beginning to notice that Leo's nature magic was not pure nature element either. He had gravity magic, which was helpful in many ways, but his nature magic was more aligned to his name and had hints of water to it. Like an actual island, a sea of nature surrounded by water. The more powerful that the little turtle got, the more water element power he was gaining. Much to Hawk's dismay. They already had a water sister, they didn't need a water brother. But even if they were from the water element, he wouldn't interfere with the growth of his siblings. He would just complain loudly about it. And that brought him to a dilemma. His fire was beautifully suited to this dungeon, but his natural form was not. So, he had two options. Either go in demon crow form, which was small enough to fly around the dungeon, or try for a humanoid form that was less awkward than the one that he got last time he tried. The crow form would work well enough. The dungeon was designed to accommodate that giant worm. With a wingspan of barely a meter, he could fly very well in the dungeon. But everyone else traveled on their legs. For a moment, Hawk was torn. He was sure that there should be some way for him to make a better humanoid form for himself, even if he had to ask for Carl's guidance on what it looked like. But walking was for creatures without wings. In the end, he decided to go with demon crow form. He would fly through the tunnels and scout if their dryads couldn't find the bosses fast enough. Or maybe Tian could. He was earth element, even if he hated getting dirt on his fur. No matter what, he couldn't miss this opportunity to show off his flames. He had spent too much time working on his power level in the background, and now it was time to remind everyone that fire was still the greatest element. Thor chuckled to himself at the bird's determination. No matter how much he grew, Hawk was Hawk. Thor's mind rumbled in the link. I will go with the Dana mage this time, and protect her. Since I can't be a behemoth indoors without blocking the tunnels, I will be the paladin and guard our princess. Dana laughed, startling the elders. Sorry, the beasts are deciding their roles for the dungeon, and they said something funny. It's a side effect of the bond, having them all in my mind all the time. That sounds disturbing. How do you function while hearing the thoughts of another all the time? Is it like being in a crowded room, even when you're trying to meditate? Dana shook her head. It's not difficult to block them out for privacy, but during the day, it's better to just keep the link open so that you don't miss things. Like Opal scheming to turn your intimate moments into a new book. Tian asked in his best innocent tone. Opal is too busy with a flood of elf erotica she's working on. I will deal with her later. Hey, I said that I wouldn't put it in my books, and I won't. There might be a nine-tailed fox in them, but nothing of your actual intimate moments. How little do you think of me that you would think I would spy on you in your bedroom? Did you already forget that you were already set up with recording crystals when we got to the bedroom? It was the first time I had seen Carl in fox form. This is unfair, a misunderstanding. Dana laughed as she teased the little fae. Opal really had only wanted Carl to model fashion for her so that she could get a good reference to use for the character in her new novel. They hadn't even had to chase her out, and she had taken all her spells with her. Chapter 1919. Split Up. Carl opened the portal to the dungeon area and found that the team really was standing around waiting for them. That was a bit of a surprise, as he had assumed that they would at least go sit inside somewhere, not knowing how long it would take for Carl and his group to get ready. They already knew that the Darklight Host was a crafting guild, and that meant a store to keep supplied, so they couldn't always sneak away instantly. They might have needed hours to finish a project. But that was likely also part of why they had come so early in the morning. Get the Darklight Host members before they were immersed in a project for the day. Sometimes getting things done was all about timing, and if you didn't get there at the exact right moment, you ended up wasting time. Either because they were not ready yet, or because they had agreed to something else for the day and you had missed your opportunity. But today, the Yizman clan had timed things perfectly. Greetings, Carl, Dana. Congratulations on reaching ascendancy. Carl nodded politely, while Dana looked a bit startled. She hadn't even noticed. Sure, she had been working on her immortal spirit's transformation, but she was sure that there was still some distance to go in the void stage last night. That was not true this morning, now that she examined herself. Her power had grown immensely, and even though she was just entering the ascended immortal stage, the first step of the transformation had more than doubled her maximum skill power. Dana suspected that it was actually a pure doubling of her power, and the rest was from being forced up through the last steps of the void stage by whatever Carl had done, plus the arrival of Scotty. But it had all happened so fast that she hadn't noticed. Technically, it took half a day, but you were distracted by fluffy foxtails. Opal reminded her helpfully. Thanks for that. I'll be sure to pay closer attention next time. To the tails, right? Opal really was hopeless, Dana decided. All right, so the plan is that you all will go left, look for the treasures in the lower levels, and we will grab the bosses. I've got more of my beasts here today, so we shouldn't be short on people. However, if you have dedicated combatants, they're definitely welcome to fight instead of digging. The more, the merrier. That made the Yizman sect elders chuckle. With the Darklight Host here, the mood was entirely different than it usually was. There was no need to worry about how much you could obtain before the bosses teamed up on you. Armies of summoned creatures were simply too powerful as a skill. Let's head in and get this show on the road. If we don't, Ray might just start without us. They stepped inside the dungeon, and all the beasts came out to join them, while Carl and Dana began to summon the constructs. There was no need to hold back. Their partners already knew what the deal was. But they were still somewhat startled to see so many mythic and divine beasts, especially a forest lord. Scotty stared around the room, confused by what she saw. She had sensed everyone else moving and didn't want to be left behind again, so she had followed the group while still half asleep. It was just instinct after her siblings had tried to ditch her in random spots in the forest so many times. Oh, Scotty. Good morning. You could have kept sleeping, we're just doing a mining dungeon. You had a big day yesterday. You don't need to work today, Carl greeted her. The little forest lord transformed into her humanoid shape and smiled up at him. Since I am awake, I will follow the group. I can just stay back with the Dryads where it's safe. They're healers and regrowth specialists, right? Are we fixing this place? It feels abandoned. Carl patted her on the head and smiled. It's a dungeon. We're here to eliminate the 3 big monsters and then collect the resources. It's like a prize from the system. Scotty nodded. Okay, I'll be with Big Sister Dryad then. One of the Dryad queens picked her up in a vine and cradled the little forest lord in her arms, then gestured down the tunnels. Who wants the manticore? It's on the far left today. The worm is over there, and the earth golem is just around the corner on the right. Tion nodded. The earth golem really was just around the corner. It would take 30 seconds to find it if you wanted to mine the right side tunnel. For the Yizzaman clan, that was the worst possible outcome, as they would get no work done at all, and would immediately be fighting a boss. That would force them to go left, which had a longer access tunnel before the resources, and a higher chance of running into a second boss. Dana raised her sword. I will take my team to the earth elemental this time. Carl, you can deal with the manticore. Ray, you can take your spiders and go play with the worm again. I bet that you can beat your high score now that you had time to prepare. Ray and the spiders vanished down the tunnel, getting a head start on the fight, while Dana ordered her team to head to the right. Tion and Thor were accompanying her for heals and barriers, while the others all intended to follow Carl to see what fighting a manticore would be like with the Dryads on their team. Short, brutal, and messy were the top guesses. Carl let the Dryads lead the way down the tunnels, but didn't let them carry him this time. They weren't in that big of a hurry, and the target was not far away. It was Ray who was the furthest to go again, as the worm was near the same spot at the back of the dungeon. If it were any other group, the proximity of the manticore and the earth golem would have certainly led to them attracting both bosses within 10 minutes of the fight starting. A true disaster in the making for an average team. Chapter 1920. New record. The moment that they stepped into what had once been a grand hall, lined with statues of various beasts, the manticore attacked. Poison gas filled the room, obscuring their vision, and the manticore launched an attack on what it thought was the most vulnerable of them. Remy. She was not a large naga, and the forest lord was being protected by the Dryad queens. So, it had hoped to get the advantage and launch a sneak attack. Only, it wasn't the one doing the ambushing. The moment that it struck, Remy twisted and coiled around its midsection, then bit it on the back of the shoulder, injecting it with naga venom. Remy quickly realized that the manticore was just as immune to poison as she was, and changed her tactics, using 4 daggers to do her best Ray imitation and stab holes in the target, which was hopelessly unable to dislodge her with her serpentine body wrapped around its midsection. Normally, it would have simply clawed her body apart, but the vines from the Dryad queens were restraining its limbs, and its whole body was being bombarded with attacks. If anything, the naga was actually protecting it by being wrapped around its midsection. Every few seconds, Remy switched potions on her daggers, testing what actually worked against the manticore and what was counted as poison for poison immunity. That was valuable research data for the new home merchant clan's alchemy labs. Tion decided that his usual skills, inspiration, and vicious mockery were not quite right for this fight. Instead, he decided to go for something to complement Opal's work. The forest trickster had set an illusionary domain with a reality warp to buff her version of reality and add damage to the earth golem archers she had designed with the hope that the manticore would think that the other boss had turned on it. So, Tion went for Dissonant Whispers, his mental damage bard ability. Dissonant Whispers causes mental damage to the target, 10% chance to cause insanity. That was a beautiful buff, and the more that he played, the less effective the struggle was becoming, as the boss began to fight visions in its own mind, as well as the ones that were materialized outside. Remy quickly realized that she was not highly effective in close combat. She lacked the strength to easily punch through the creature's hide, so she released the boss and retreated to the far side of the room, where she could pelt the boss with ice shards. She was directly opposite Hawk, and the two siblings were competing for who could hurl more of their chosen element at the creature, going for smaller, firebolts and a storm of ice shards, while avoiding the sort of area spells that might damage the dungeon and the loot within it. Kara had created a spatial quake under each of the manticore's 4 feet, linked to the position of the foot itself, so no amount of dancing about could relieve the pain. Scotty watched the battle in wonder. This was diabolical. The manticore was insane, corrupted by this place to an extent that not even her own magic could undo. But the way that they were dealing with the unfortunate creature was basically torture. At least they could have used something with big damage to cut it down faster, right? Kara laughed as she sensed her new sister's thoughts. Carl had a steady stream of Chaos Vortex spells flying at the boss, and she was using 4 Spatial Quake effects at the same time. Even Hawk's Fire was not as powerful as those spells were. It just didn't look like it because the order-aligned Fawn couldn't see the Chaos element spells. She could sense them well enough, but not see them. Relax, it's not as bad as it looks. Dungeon bosses are way tougher than their real-world counterparts. Even your mom would struggle to beat this guy up in a timely manner. We're doing it as fast as we can, while keeping it from attacking us properly and hurting anyone. That makes the fight easier for everyone, Kara explained, her accent a bit heavy in badger form, but the words understandable. Scotty nodded and refreshed the barriers over everyone, including Ray and the spiders, who were nearly out of her casting range. She needed to get Carl to teach her that spell he used that let him cast a spell on anything that he could sense. Dominion increases maximum casting range to maximum sensory range. Increase area of effect spells radius at a cost of 100 mana per meter. It was a skill from the skill tree of the Ancient Pet Sitter class, and Carl wasn't sure who all could use it. But they could explain the situation to Scotty later. Once she fully understood that Carl's skills were her skills, as long as she was compatible with them, she would naturally begin to use them as her own. She just hadn't had time to adapt yet. Plus, she had just realized that she was missing some essential skills. She didn't know the vine attack that the Dryads used. She had only ever used her nature magic to make plants grow, or to create new ones that would help the forest. Attacking things simply wasn't in the nature of the Forest Lords any more than it was in the nature of the Spirit Bears. They could learn it, but normally, they wouldn't have any need to do it. The Manticore was beginning to look haggard when Ray's joyful cheer filled their minds. Ha! I win! Beat my old time by nearly 4 minutes, with the same number of spiders helping me. Now who is further behind? That was a close call. The Earth Golem was super durable, though. Head to assist Dana. We will be finished here in just a few minutes. Carl instructed. Got it, boss. We'll gather on that side and prepare to start mining the moment that all the bosses are down. Opal's all prepared, right? Opal sent her the mental equivalent of flipping her off, and Ray laughed. I'll take that as a yes. Carl, you can signal the start of the mining by changing the spiders to something that digs better if you want. They're not made for digging stone. Badgers. Kara cheered. Technically, that wasn't the army of badgers spell, right? It was just a bunch of summoned badgers to help them dig. They wouldn't even be chaos badgers, who were flying creatures and less adapted to digging holes. Instead, he would conjure an immortal version of the dragon badgers from the Golden Dragon Nation, named for their temper, not for any draconic aspects of their physiology.